G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for being here and watching my content. I really do appreciate it. And you are here also because you watch the greatest sport in the world, rugby, and it happens to be Tuesday, which means it's time to read some rugby news. First up, the Rugby World Rankings, the most important ranking in the world of union. It's not actually a joke this year, less than every other year, because in the Rugby World Cup year, the Rugby World Ranking will be used as a tiebreaker in the event of a very rare, where everything is tied, the final determinant factor to break the tie in the pool stage of the Rugby World Cup is the Rugby World Rankings. So Wales has plummeted one more point after losing again on the weekend to England at home, which sees them dropping below Japan over the week, which means that in an event of a tie between Wales and Australia will be going over Wales in the pool stage in the event of everything being tied, right? With that being said, Six Nations round 3 happened on the weekend. The Italians once again proven that they have something, but they don't quite have that something yet, right? They have something, but it's just not quite there yet, okay? Once again, the Italians were made an admirable effort to come back against the number 1 team in the world, Ireland, albeit without Johnny Sexton. Once again, the Irish were exposed. Without Johnny Sexton, the Irish team looked lacking at times. Bundy Aki, I thought, was absolutely brilliant. He looked like he was playing against schoolboys at times. He was just like running people over, making offloads with ease, and I think he's got like 1 or 2 tries this game. Dominant performance by Bundy Aki. But yeah, it was very surprising once again, just like the previous 2 weeks. The Italians made a very, very big comeback against the Irish. It took the Irish, some effort in the second half to close out the game, 34 points to 20. And with that being said, if you can see some of the territories, they're quite even. But yeah, it is what it is. The Italians just, has something, but not quite there yet. Avoid upset to keep Grand Slam dreams alive. I think the biggest issue for the Irish team, like I said, is once again with Ross Byrne, whilst he is quite good at club level, at international test level, especially the big stage, maybe there's lack of leadership out of him. Not like lack of leadership, but like lack of experience in leadership. So he was not really able to direct the flow as Johnny Sexton would in a big test match. So yeah, it was once again, Johnny Sexton factor in the Ireland team is proven to be an issue. So obviously this coming up week is a break. Ireland has selected a 27-man team going into like a training camp for this weekend, which included 3 big returns for the Irish team, which is a lot of the Irish fans are quite looking forward to. So Ty Furlong bolstering the front row position, the tight head position, Robbie Henshaw and Jemson Gibson Park, who is, I think, one of the fastest breakdown number 9s in the world. His ball speed at the breakdown is quite, one of the most important factors for the Irish team's success in recent times. So having him back is really huge. Robbie Henshaw, not to mention, also a huge piece of the puzzle for the Irish side. So these are just literal starting players returning to the Irish team, bolstering for that Grand Slam finish for the last 2 rounds. Second game of the week was England versus Wales in Cardiff. England was able to shakily beat Wales. I thought this game was very lackluster for both teams. No one was truly dominant in this team. I thought England had a good scrummaging and like slightly better scrummaging, but both teams really lacked. England really suffering a lot from their goal kicking with Owen Farrell, and in the end, despite England winning, I thought the English could probably put more points on the Welsh if the execution had been a bit more polished overall, because the Welsh really looked stale this game. There were many changes going to this Welsh team, including Dan Biggar getting benched. A lot of rookies were given the time to start, and the return of Alan Wynne-Jones. So this was also at the back end of the Welsh team calling for a strike due to some contractual disagreements between the Wales Union and the Wales players. There was basically talks that the game could have been cancelled because of the strike. Eventually, there was a settlement between the players and the union that the Wales Rugby Union, that is, not the Players Union, Wales Rugby Union, that the 60 cap rule for players playing overseas would be dropped to 25 to be eligible to qualify for the Welsh national team, and also that the players' agreement was originally proposed to be like 80% salary and 20% bonus. This agreement has been scrapped, where most players will now be given a fixed contract, and only some players will be given this 80% fixed and 20% bonus as a separate agreement. So not everyone's gonna be under the bonus payment thing, which is no one really wants this, because if you don't get selected, you're basically losing out 20% of your pay. So that everybody kind of wanted the fix, so that's something that they were fighting for, and kind of secure that for Wales. That's kind of like the bigger part for the players. Obviously, the money for the union, for the clubs, were confirmed as well by the Wales Rugby Union. With that being said, we've already talked about this. England, Owen Farrell had an absolute shocker of a kicking game on the weekend. Not to mention that he got charged down. He kicked the boy out in the full. His goal kicking was 2 out of 6. Really, really bad day in the office for Owen, and it's something that it's really hard to really pinpoint why this is the case. Owen has been quite good for England for so many years now, for his entire career, I felt, and yeah, it's really uncharacteristic of him. Maybe he's just got that time of his career where it's time to move on. With that being said, a lot of people are calling for Owen Farrell to be kind of replaced by Marcus Smith, but Borthwick, really really not showing too much interest in what's it called in Marcus Smith in recent times. So Marcus Smith was on the bench for England. He only had 20 seconds in the test match against Wales. He was put on last minute basically to tick a box that, hey, you got a cap for this game, and that is basically it. The game had been won at England at that point, and so Marcus Smith, Arundel, and I think the reserve hooker, all three players only got 20 seconds of the game. Something that Bothwick later explained that he felt that the England team was an arm wrestle with Wales, and he didn't want to break up the pattern of the players. So he didn't want to bring on too many players that kind of shaking up the rhythm of the team. And basically, that's why he decided to not bringing on the reserves. So it just shows that he's not really that confident in Marcus's abilities. With that being said, Marcus, so going into the next weekend, obviously the break, England's going to have a training camp, and Marcus has been dropped back to his club as well. He won't be in the training camp with England. Bothwick did say that it's not because he's dropped out of favour, but because he wants Marcus to get more game time with the Harlequins instead of being in training camp. So he felt like that'll be more beneficial for him. So he's been sent back. I thought Owen Farrell probably should have been, I thought Marcus should probably be considered to start next game, considering how badly Owen Farrell was performing. But yeah, it looks like really Marcus has been falling out of favour with Bothwick in the England side. When it comes to Gatland, obviously he made some changes to the Wales side, which I thought the Wales look a lot worse with Dan Biggar on the bench. I thought Biggar's kicking game was at least effective to some extent to keeping Wales intact, which was just I thought didn't exist. It wasn't nearly as polished when he wasn't on the field for the most part of the game. And with that being said, Gatland did mention that the reason he wanted to put the newer players on is to give them more experience building into the World Cup, because he is looking further ahead down the line instead of the current state of the Six Nations. So he really wanted to kind of he kind of specifically said that you can't coach experience. You can only coach, obviously you have to earn the experience, be on the field and play. So that's kind of like what he was looking at, wanting to bring on a lot of the younger players against England in a big test match. And moving on, so the final test match of the Six Nations of the weekend was France versus Scotland. France bonus try win, 32-21. I thought this was a really regrettable kind of performance for the Scottish team. I thought Scotland played brilliantly for about 66 for the latest part of the 60 minutes. For the first 20, the Scotland just threw away way too many free points. I think it was 3 tries that was thrown away just for free, essentially, to the French, giving away a red card. Luckily, the French also had a red card early in the first half, so the game wasn't completely over. But the Scottish staged the comeback and was within reach to take the game before the French kind of closed it out right at the dying minutes of the game. So it is what it is. Gregor Townsend came out and said that he thought this was the best performance. I completely disagree. I thought a number of the Scottish players, played well, but not everyone played to their Van der Merwe really didn't play. I thought he had a lackluster, like a quieter game this game. But I thought to say that this was the best performance championship, I don't think that was the case. There was just the fact that the first 20 minutes was so horrendous. You really can't say that this was the best performance, even though they did make a good comeback through a lot of brilliance by Finn Russell. I still don't think this was something that you wouldn't praise, be happy about, to say the least, right? And then finally, with France, obviously the team is once again looking super sharp, super polished, really, really good defense, and eventually was able to win the game despite the Scottish comeback. But yeah, it was a brick wall that the Scottish had to really chip away for a long time to finally get themselves close to potentially win the game. But yeah, the French eventually was just a bit more polished to win the game for themselves. Finally, Six Nations fixtures for 2024 has been confirmed. So there were these the fixtures. We'll probably have a look at this later in the year, but the fixtures are confirmed. The one interesting thing out of this confirmation is that Stade de France would not be the home ground for the France next year due to potentially the Olympics. So they may be looking at moving the French games to Marseille. But due to the Olympics, the stadium would not be available essentially for the French team to play Six Nations. Now moving on to Super Rugby. So this was also the first round of Super Rugby on the weekend. So Eddie Jones, before the game started, had to release an open letter to Australian rugby fans, kind of outlining his expectations for the players, outlining what he wanted to see out of Super Rugby, which is something I thought was really just really good. It just generates interest and just really putting a stamp on the leadership that he wants for going forward for the Australian rugby, which is something that Rugby Australia has lacked for a long time. The Wallabies coach is you don't even know where they are, probably on holiday somewhere, until the final 2 rounds or something. The Wallaby coach is here to watch, to select the players, so everybody got to be on their forms. After a horrendous season, the Wallaby coach finally shows themselves, right? So Eddie Jones has showed himself on day one, and he watched I think 2 games live in the stadium this weekend as well, which is just shows a tremendous commitment to Rugby Australia. So in the letter, the most important part I think he mentioned is that he wants the players to be self-accountable for their performance and for the direction of their own careers, essentially, how they want to, improve, how they want to really take accountability for their own professional development, and, to set a high expectations for themselves. Something that I do think that really lacks for teams like the Rebels. We'll talk about them in a minute. And, but yeah, something that really is, I think, the difference. And Eddie Jones is right as well. He pointed out in this article that we do have the Wallabies do have the talent, just really don't have the leadership and the standards amongst the players. And the players are not driven themselves and not driving themselves to get better, essentially. So there's so it's a leadership thing, it's a personal development thing, and it's mental thing. One thing I thought was funny, this article, is that Eddie Jones said that when he was receiving the call to coach the Wallabies, he thought, his other option would be to sit comfortable. There was the comfortable option of sitting in a commentary box and helping some tier 2 teams get ready for Rugby World Cup. So yeah, he was considering that, and then he thought, I thought the funny part is that the Wallabies is the tier 2 nation. So yeah, it is the option that it is the same option essentially, but I thought that was a bit funny. Anyway, maybe you weren't. Next up, so obviously Eddie Jones has selected, is replacing the current Wallabies coaching staff. So one of the defense coach has been announced for the Wallabies, Brett Hodgson. He was supposed to be the Eddie Jones defense coach after Seabold left for Manly Sea Eagles, and obviously Eddie Jones got sacked, so the Brett Hodgson was left without a job with England Rugby. So yeah, Eddie Jones has decided to continue. He's hiring with Brett Hodgson, so he basically brought him into the Wallabies camp. And Hodgson was a rugby league player. Yeah, I can't remember which team he played for, but I know he used to play rugby league. He went to become a kicking consultant in the South Sharks, assistant with the Hull FC in Super League, and then he played for the Tigers. I think pretty sure he played for the Tigers. He then returned to the Tigers in 2018 as a coach, and then he went back to coach Hull FC, and then he was just about to be announced as the defense coach for England before Eddie Jones was sacked. So yeah, will be a good start for Wallabies. So Super Rugby results on the weekend. First game of the match, and it was also the biggest upset of the season potentially already. The Chiefs really done the numbers on the Crusaders on the weekend. Obviously Razor was busy, hinting to everybody in the media that he's got the All Blacks coach job, and forgot to actually coach the Crusaders. This Crusader side was horrendous. The Chiefs really dominated the Crusaders, especially in the second half. Just really pounded the Crusaders down. What was interesting is that there's a lot of people talking about, D-Mac was playing really well. In fact, I was thinking about this when I was watching the game, right? The Chiefs had this play style where they really offloaded a lot of their they really looked at trying to get fast breakdown speed and get the forwards to just build quick board on the breakdown and get the ball forwards to build forward momentum with crash balls, just physical hard running to create crash balls, and then get the ball out to create space out wide for the backs. I thought this looked really similar to the Irish strategy, something that the Irish does in test matches, something that Leinster does in the Irish, in the club level, which is the Irish, basically most of the Irish team comes from. So I thought the Chiefs looked really similar to the Irish attacking, and then later on, Brad Weber, the number 9, who's actually revealed, I think he's injured again, actually revealed that they've been learning from the Northerners on how they play rugby, and then it literally clicked to me. They're learning from the attack pattern looks so similar to the Irish style, and it really showed in the second half. Brody Retallick, Sam Kane, just Somasoni Takiao, just really physically belting the Crusader line, and then they just get the ball back really quickly, and then D-Mac gets the ball out wide, and it was just full momentum already. The backs are already running forward onto the ball, and it's just easy days getting over the advantage line and just belting down the Crusaders. Crusaders really look outclassed in the second half of the game. And and I was surprised to hear that Weber was saying that they learned some stuff from the Northerners. And I was I did watching the game. Whilst watching the game, I was thinking this looked very similar in terms of the style. It's very similar to the Irish at the moment. So yeah, that's really interesting to see if that's going to transition into the All Blacks, because that could be really, really important for the All Blacks going into the Rugby World Cup. And then the second test match is Waratahs versus Brumbies, and obviously it's really admirable for the New Zealanders to learn from the Northerners, to learn from people better than them. Sometimes teams, especially I think Australian teams, and I think Kiwis and Australian both falls in the same category. They get too arrogant on the style that they play. We play a better, more entertaining style of rugby. That's how we play, and everybody else is inferior. They have this idea that they play the best style of rugby, whereas when they're actually falling behind in many aspects of the game. So it's really good to see New Zealand rugby has taken, at least Chiefs has taken the initiative to learn from people better than them, and taking a humble pill. Whereas I feel like Australian rugby hasn't really done that yet. Yeah, so Waratahs versus Brumbies, I thought, once again, this was a close game, but this was a very sloppy game. The Brumbies did look better, more polished than the Waratahs, but they really let in a bunch of really soft tries. Waratahs let in a bunch of soft tries as well. So I wasn't very impressed, to be honest, with either teams. That was the same when Eddie Jones was talking about in one of his interviews. He was like, a horse looks fast when nobody's chasing when nobody's chasing it. So it's kind of like the same thing when both horses are equally slow. They look good, they look competitive, but when another horse that's actually fast comes into the race, you'll clearly show. So I don't think either team's played was that impressive. The Brumbies was basically able to win with penalty goals. They did try to milk penalties once again in this game. I was actually quite angry when I saw Lonergan, the halfback, threw the ball literally forward onto Parecki to try to milk a penalty near the rocks, and it was just really, really, I thought I was not I wasn't very impressed by that, to be honest. But Nick Berry didn't buy that. 25-31, it is what it is. The Waratahs, so the one thing that I was really disappointing out of this game as well is Angus Bell injured his toe once again. He will be out for the remainder of the Super Rugby season. I hope that he will be okay to play for the Rugby World Cup because I think he is the best loose air prop for Australia at the moment, and also has, he's so young. He needs more game time to develop his craft, and it's really disappointing to see him out once again. The other game that's actually really entertaining, Moana Pasifika against Fijian and Dura. Both teams reckless attacking. If you want to see actual good attacking rugby, this was the game to watch. And eventually it was really, really close. And Dura was behind and finally won the match in like the dying minutes. A few minutes left essentially to score into the corner to win the test match. And it was just like, tiptoeing all the way for both teams. This was, compared to the Wallabies, compared to the Waratahs and, compared to the Waratahs and, and the penalty milkers match, this was actually more entertaining. Both teams shot more guts. Nobody's trying to milk penalties and try to win the game, by milking 3 points like the Brumbies did. Really good efforts. For this game, it was tiptoeing. But after also on the weekend for the Fijians, a new head coach was announced. Simon Raiwalui was announced as the Fijian head coach after their former coach resigned a few weeks ago. This offer was presented to Scott Razor Robinson, the Crusaders head coach. Obviously, he declined. So he was busy telling everyone he's got the All Blacks coach, All Blacks coach role. And next one up, we got Highlanders versus Blues. Blues dominated Highlanders, completely outclassed. A few really, really impressive players from the Blues team. One was Talea. Really, I thought his performance last year was a bit lacklusting, but this year really taking the next level and we're just carving it up over the Highlanders. The Highlanders, really didn't look like it was in the same league over the Blues. 60 points to 20. Media were not happy about the Highlanders. Aaron Smith was missing, but I don't think that was the issue for the Highlanders. I just don't think we're just completely outclassed. The players had a brief period before the halftime where the Highlanders kind of like put some pressure on the Blues, got 2 yellow cards, and I was able to score 1 try. But really just lacked the persistence to and it looked like Highlanders could potentially make a comeback. Really lacked the persistence to try to continue that all the way through. Reds versus Hurricanes. Again, I was disappointed in this game. The Reds and Hurricanes looked kind of close in the first half, and not because they're equally matched, equally good, because they were both equally sloppy in the first half. Second half, the Hurricanes tidied up the sloppiness quite a bit, whereas the Reds continued with the sloppiness. And Hurricanes put on 6 tries against the Reds in the second half. 6 tries! 6 tries in 40 minutes of rugby for the Hurricanes to beat the Reds in the second half. I was not happy with this game. I thought this was, really, I don't know what to say. The Reds just looked, I don't know, just looked really, really bad, to be honest. Like, the only person that looked good was Tom Liner, the son of Michael Liner, who debuted. Like, if a rookie debuting for his first match looked like the best player on the field, something is wrong, right? And to be fair, he was not, he was not like spectacular. I thought it was like a pass. Did everything you were supposed to do for a fly half. I didn't think, the media is probably saying like, oh, he's the greatest thing ever in Australian rugby, brightest future ever. I didn't think that was the case. I thought he was just, he did what you kind of would expect, anyway, it is what it is. People saying that, oh, it was fantastic, he did so well. I didn't think I thought he just, he did what he was supposed to do. missed a few tackles, but you know, it is what it is for a debutant. But he did look like he was the best player on the field because everybody else was so bad. Yeah. Anyway, the final match for the Super Rugby was Force versus Chokers. Oh my god, the Rebels is an embarrassment. This game, the Rebels came out really strong and it was just dominating the game for the first half essentially. And then the Western Force, just second half, slowly but surely belted the Rebels down. And once again, the Rebels, for years now, has that issue of finishing the game. They're just not able to close out the game. Western Force eventually caught up and then finally put the nail in the coffin when Jeremy Thrust, the guy who had retired last year, the former All Black, came out of retirement and scores a try for the Force to win the match over the Chokers. And yeah, and he was literally called back in the squad because just like too many injuries at the lock position due to Ryan McClawley and Isaac Rodder both injured for the Western Force. They just didn't have anyone to play, so they're like, "Hey, you want to come back and make a few bucks?" And what was Jeremy Jeremy Thrush came out and it's like, "Yeah, sure," and won the score. Like literally played like the full game and won the match. Not full game, literally won the match for the Force. Right, like it was just ridiculous. And the Rebels, you know, can't even hold out against a guy out of a retirement village, can't even win a game against someone out of the retirement village. Just super disappointing for Rebels. And this is something that Eddie Jones needs to look into, right? Accountability. Like players are not accountable for their own performances and not accountable for like, you know, for being professional and finish the game and win the game, right? Don't have the determination, the guts, the pride as a professional player, then they shouldn't be in the Wallabies, in my opinion. But anyway, let's move on to South Africa now. Finally, let's finish this news. Moana Steyn is set to retire at June this year with the Bulls. So the Bulls are going to offer R1 every ticket sold to donate to his foundation, MS10. I actually don't know what this is. I tried to Google it. I actually don't know what MS10 foundation is. If you know what it is, let me know. But basically, Moana Steyn, as appreciation for him, will be working for his foundation afterwards, and they're going to donate a bunch of money to him as his retirement package. So the Springboks is looking at a assistant, I guess not, because a referee consultant, and it's going to be, they're looking at hunting down Nigel Owens. There was been a report from South Africa, and if they couldn't get Nigel Owens, they're going to look for someone from in their own country, probably. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, they're going to look for someone from their own country to as a consultant. The French has already done so with Jerome Garces. Tavin Gautier has already done that. So Rassie Erasmus and friends wants to get the best of the best, Nigel Owens. They're waiting for him to reply. So RG Snyman is returning from injury after 17 months out. I think he had a knee injury or something. He's been out for a long time. He's finally available for selection again and will be available for the Springboks. And finally, the last bit of news. Frederick Michalak forward pass. The forward pass, infamous forward pass against the atrocity against the All Blacks in 2007. The criminal himself, right, has been hired by Stuart Lancaster to assist coaching the Rusty 92 next year. And that's the news, guys. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll have a week off, so I'll see you guys next week for the news, I guess. And we'll see you guys this weekend for Super Rugby reviews, and then we'll do Six Nations next week, and yada yada yada. Cheers.